Okay, today's daf is Shabbat daf Samach Aleph. We're going to start right at the very bottom of Samach Amud Bet, at the last few words. V'lo b'yachiv bizman she'en beraglo makah. Okay, we dealt with shoes yesterday and the sandals, the Roman sandals. I recommend a few things for reading. First of all, Julie put up a post a week or two ago with a link to the antiquities site where they have lots of pictures of old things that you can find. And Shuli Mishkin had a whole article yesterday also that was on the site about shoes and the sandals and the Roman and a bit of history. So look there. We're going to talk today about kameot. I'll remind you, which are amulets. Last week on Daf Michelle of Shir and Chamutala, the Hebrew, they had a whole thing about kameot. This week it was all about men, women differences, and it'll be on stuff that we learned already and stuff that's coming up. So anyway, those are all good things to be reading or listening to. Okay, we're going to start with Lo b'yachi bizman she'en beraglo makah. So now the Mishnah said, after the sandal ha'mesumal, it now says that you can't go out with one shoe if you don't have an injury on one foot. Okay, so now, first we're going to talk about why you can't go out with one shoe. Rashi on the Mishnah on yesterday's daf said that, first he quotes the Yerushalmi, that it says, Delo lichshadei detan lechavre tute kanfe. If you walk around with one shoe, again, this goes back to a concern of mar'it ayim, what people are going to think when they see you. And they might think what? They'll think that you might be carrying your other shoe. And then again, they'll see you carrying and they'll think maybe it's okay to carry one shoe. So normally people don't walk around with one shoe. So therefore the assumption would be that you're carrying the other one. However, he brings a second answer, which I find is interesting. He says, Lashon Rabotai, but what I learned from my rabbis is, Dilma mechayche, maybe they'll mock him and make fun of him that he's walking around with one shoe. And I'm thinking of that nursery rhyme about the guy who walks around with one shoe on and one shoe off. So people will start mocking him. And once they start making fun of him, what's going to happen? What's your immediate reaction when someone makes fun of you, right? You'll want to rectify the situation. You'll forget it's Shabbat, and you'll quickly take off your other shoe so you don't look like a fool. So therefore, there's concern that you might forget it's Shabbat, and you'll take it off and carry it. So that's all the reason for why you can't walk around with one shoe on. However, you can walk around with one shoe on if you have a makah on your regel. Okay, so now the question is going to be if you have an injured foot. So now what the Gemara is going to ask, so ha yesh baraglo makah nafik. So the Gemara first says we can infer from the Mishnah that if you had an injury on one foot, you'd be allowed to walk around with one shoe. Behemin ayu nafik. But the question is, which shoe? Which shoe can you wear? Can you wear it on the injured foot or can you wear it on the foot that's not injured? And now the question is going to become a basic debate about why people wear shoes. Do you wear shoes? We're going to see either mishum tsa'ar, to protect you from stepping on glass, or anything that might be on the floor that would hurt you. Or do we wear shoes for ta'anug, because it's just nice and comfortable. Okay, so we'll see how that affects the machloket here. Amar Rav Huna ba'ota sheyesh ba makah. It must be that you can wear the shoe on the foot that's injured. Alma, it must be that what does Rav Huna hold? Kasaval, sandal mishum tsar avid. You wear the sandal mishum tsar because it's uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable to walk on bumpy things on the ground. Therefore, if you're only wearing one shoe and it's on the foot where you have a makah, the reason is because your foot hurts you, you don't want to walk on the ground, but your other foot is uncovered because you obviously really don't care. Shum tsa'ar, right? Different people have a different threshold of pain and walking around. And I think I mentioned this once in class. I once met someone who never walked around with shoes, right? And his feet kind of hardened and he was insensitive to the ground. So basically that would be why you wear shoes. And therefore, if you're wearing one shoe, now here it becomes a little tricky. I'm not exactly clear how, if we're worried people are going to see you and think that you're carrying the other shoe. So the assumption is, in this case, somehow it must be, again, it's a little tricky because if the shoe is covering where you have an injured foot, can people tell that you're injured or not? Now, maybe you're limping, and therefore it becomes clear that you're injured on the foot, and you're allowed to wear it on that foot because it's obvious then that since, let's say, you're limping and you have some external, someone can see somehow that your foot is injured, so then they'll see that you're only wearing one shoe. They'll assume you're just the kind of person that walks around barefoot and you don't really care, but you're wearing it on the injured foot because that needs protection. The Chia bar Rav Amal, he's going to obviously say the opposite, and this is more likely that we would see nowadays. sometimes someone has an injury and they have a big bandage around their foot and their shoe doesn't fit on anymore, or it's uncomfortable to wear a shoe. So they'll walk around with one shoe, and dafka, it's on the other foot, the foot that's not injured. So ba'otasha aim b'maka. Alma kasavar l'shum ta'anu gavid. It must be that they say people wear shoes for ta'anu because it's pleasurable, nice to wear shoes, but not because of tsar, and that's why they don't have it on the makkah, because it doesn't fit or it would be uncomfortable. And therefore, and now what about the fact that he's walking around with one shoe and people will say, oh, maybe he's carrying the other shoe? Well, now in this version, it's very obvious. Since your foot is exposed, everybody will see that it's injured and they'll know that that's why. And either they won't come to mock you, or they won't be, you gotta hope anyway, if you're injured, people aren't gonna make fun of you. Or if it's the other concern that we're not concerned, they think you have your other shoe, that you're carrying it, they'll know because they'll know you have an injury. Okay, so those are the two approaches. Now we're going to bring in Rabbi Yochanan and something Rabbi Yochanan said, and we're going to try to infer from here that Rabbi Yochanan holds specifically like one of the opinions. Ba'af Rabbi Yochanan savar lahad Rav Huna. He must be holding like Rav Huna held, that it's the shoe is being worn on the one that has the injury. And from here we're going to get into how you put on shoes in the morning, okay? Is there a special order to how to put shoes on? To Amrle Rabbi Yochanan, the Rav Shemen bar Abba, Rabbi Yochanan said to Rav Shemen, Havli misane, he said, please give me my shoes. Yahiv le diyamin, he gave him the right shoe first. Amarle asito maka. Rabbi Yochanan's reaction was, you're making it like I have an injury on my left foot, and that's why you're giving, let's say it this way, there's two ways to read this. You look like you're making my right foot injured by the fact that you're giving me my right shoe first. Okay, the assumption is that Rabbi Yochanan held you're supposed to put your left shoe on first. Okay, this is different from what we might know. Hold off. He thinks you have to put your left shoe on first. The fact that he gave him only his right shoe, or his right shoe first, he basically was saying, oh wait, according to Rabbi Yochanan, if you don't put on your left shoe first, you cannot put on your left shoe. If you put your right shoe first, you're not allowed after to put your left shoe on. So now you're basically making it like my right foot is injured and you're only giving me one shoe to wear, basically. And therefore, it sounds like he holds like Rav Huna, that the right shoe is the one, because he said, you're making my right shoe injured, that's the one where he's putting a sandal on. And therefore, it sounds like he holds like Rav Huna. The Makkah would go on that. Obviously, he wasn't injured. He was just kind of saying, well, because you're giving it to me like this, it's making it like I'm injured, okay? Vidilma, but the Gemara rejects this and says, Vidilma kechia barav svirale. Maybe he held like Chia Barav, who said, V'hachi kamar, and this is what he really meant to say, right? Who said basically it's on the other foot. Asita shel small makkah. That's actually how I accidentally tried translating it in the first place. By giving me my right, you're making it as if my left is injured, okay? So now they're going to say, so basically you can't learn from here whether or not Rabbi Yochanan thought like Rav Huna, or he thought like Rav Chia Barav. Okay, it's not clear, because it could have been asito makkah means you made it. It could be it the right, it the left. One of them could be the injured, so to speak. And therefore, we get into that. Now we're going to say, we're now getting off on a tangent about the shoe thing. Va'azda Rabbi Yochanan l'tameh. Rabbi Yochanan went l'shitato. He was consistent. Damar Rabbi Yochanan ki tefillin kach minalin. Tefillin are like shoes. Okay, I'll say it this way. The way you put on your tefillin is the way you put on your shoes. Interesting connection between shoes and tefillin. Okay, there are those who try to make these connections. Why is connecting these two ideas? Ma tefillin b'small, af minalin b'small. Just like your tefillin go on your left hand, likewise your shoes should, now it's a little bit of a strange comparison. Shoes don't only go on your left foot, right? You don't put two shoes on your left foot. But what he means is you start with the left side. Okay, so it's a strange comparison. What's the connection between tefillin and shoes, right? It's a strange comparison because tefillin only goes on one arm and shoes go on both arms. And we don't really have an answer as to why he thought, I mean, this is your answer, but it's not so clear why he really thought that shoes are supposed to go on the left. So now they bring in a contradiction from a Braita. Meitive, kishu noel shel yamin, v'achar kach noel shel small. Here's a Braita which says the exact opposite. When you put your shoes on, you put your right on first and then your left. So how do we resolve this? Well, it's interesting, usually when we have a problem that an Emora, someone from the Gemara time period, is contradicted by an earlier source, generally we say the earlier source is stronger and we have to somehow explain the Amora's position. Here we have a very strange reaction of Rabbi Yosef. Amar Rabbi Yosef, Hashta detanya hachi, v'amar Rabbi Yochanan hachi, David hachi avid, u'David hachi avad. Since we have a Braita that says one thing, and we have Rabbi Yochanan who says something else, well, do whatever you want. You can put your right first, you can put your left first, which is very strange because if that's the case, right, it seems, first of all, normally we hold by the Braita is stronger than an Amora, and here he basically says, do what you want, which could be an indicator, which maybe sits well with a lot of us, who really cares whether you put your right shoe on or your left shoe on? It's not really so critical. There's ways to say one, there's ways to say the other. This isn't, and maybe one would say like this, when it's a halachic issue, and there's a contradiction, we have to resolve it. This isn't exactly a halachic issue, how to get dressed in the morning. By the way, I looked up a little bit and found some interesting things online about people talking about when they get dressed, what's more important to put on first, and what, that you should basically put your underwear on first in case, you have to run out the house, and, you want to have the basics on first, and you start with this, and then you start with that, and this. All sorts of things you can find online about the order of importance of how you get dressed. One thing I saw was someone who said, I was in the gym and I saw someone getting dressed. It was very odd. They put their socks on first, and, it was very weird, and that we're used to certain things are very ritualized. We do things normally in the same manner day after day. And maybe that's where this is coming from in terms of a structure and that there is some sort of thought involved into how to get dressed and how to do things. The opinion of the Braita makes a lot more sense with what we know about Judaism in general, that the right is what's important. And the Meiri learns from here about Talmidei Chachamim that they always have to put things in the right, even mundane acts have importance and show your belief in God and the right is the stronger side and all sorts of things. And I saw someone wrote here about maybe he was a lefty. So we see it couldn't be he was a lefty because Rabbi Yochanan really says this to everybody. That was his thing, like tefillin, we do the same as tefillin. But that there's something about, the stronger hand and that relates to this. Anyway, again, what to make of this is a little tricky. So Rabbi Yosef says, and by the way, maybe I should mention, I'll already mention it now, I was going to mention it later, but the Shulchan Aruch puts this as halacha in the very beginning of the Shulchan Aruch. Dvarim hanoagim baboker. He puts this in the second chapter of how you're supposed to put your shoes on in the morning. So is this really halachic or not? It's a good question. So now, right, I would ask like a show of hands, do people put on their shoes like this? But I won't embarrass people. Okay. So now, they say, so let's go back. Where were we? Okay. Rabbi Yosef had said, okay, we're about 15 lines from the top. Rabbi Yosef had said, since we have this opinion and we have that opinion, basically, you can go both ways. But comes Abaye and he says, Amalei Abaye, why are you saying that? Dilma Rabbi Yochanan Hamanita lo Michlle. Maybe he just didn't know about that Braita. We know very often, not everybody knew all the Braita. V'i have a Michlle, and if he would have known, have a Hadrabe. Maybe, okay, now he's going to say like this. I don't like that you're indecisive about this, and you say you could do this or you could do that. Because listen, he says, either he didn't know, maybe he didn't hear the Braita now. If he had heard the Braita, maybe he would have changed his mind. Or or maybe if you'd heard the Braita, you would have said, yeah, well, that's very nice, that Braita, but I don't hold that way. So either which way, we should have a conclusive, we should take Rabbi Yochanan and learn something conclusive from this. Obviously, what's interesting is he says you can learn itself in the opposite, but theoretically, you should come to some conclusion. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, and here comes what I see, wait, 1 second, I just want to read a note. Eric wrote that I was taught in school that knots go according to your weaker side, tefillin and tying shoes. Interesting. So the knots go with that side. Okay, that wouldn't explain Rabbi Yochanan why he says put your left shoe on, but that might explain what we're going to see right now, which is Yirei Shamayim Yotzei Yedei Shtehen. Okay, someone who's Yirei Shamayim would follow both. How so? We're going to see. And who's a Yirei Shamayim? Umanu Mar Berei D'Rabbanah. He basically says there's Mar Berei D'Rabbanah. He was a Yirei Shamayim, and he came up with a way to follow both. Hechi Avid, how did he do this? And this is what appears in the Shulchan Aruch. Siem dimine velo katar. You put your right shoe on, you don't tie it. Siem dismale. You put your left shoe on, vikatar. So if you ever wondered why we do this, it's to be yotzei both these opinions. Vahadar katar diamine. So you basically put on right shoe, put on left shoe, tie right shoe. And in that way, we follow all of them. And that's what Eric was pointing out, that the knots go on the left, like the tefillin. However, like I said, it doesn't explain Rabbi Yochanan, who thought that the shoe should go on like the tefillin. Okay, so there you have it. Now, if this is where the sugya would end, that would be great, and then we'd understand the Shulchan Aruch and everything makes a lot of sense and how we got to this compromised shita. But there's one last line which is very interesting. Rav Ashi likes to get the last word in and listen to his last word. Amar Rav Ashi, Chazina l'Rav Kahana de lo kapid. I noticed that Rav Kahana isn't careful about this halacha, or I don't know, again, whether you call this a halacha or not, or this custom. Okay, so that's how the sugya ends, which is just interesting. Okay, Tanu Rabbanit. Okay, even though it kind of ended, but now we're going to bring one more source, a final braita. And now we're going to say, this isn't, you might say, why are we so careful about the right when it comes to shoes, but not about other things? Well, look at this braita. Kishu noel shel yamin, v'achar kaf noel shel small. So that's exactly like we said. Put on your right shoe first and then your left. Kishu choletz, but when you take them off, choletz shel small, v'achar kaf choletz shel yamin. Again, this is giving importance to the yamin. Take it off last. Leave it on at the end. Kishu rochetz, when you wash your body, rochetz shel yamin, v'achar kach rochetz shel small, or your hands. Sorry, this is washing your hands, right? When we do netilat yadayim, right? It's not clear here, and actually it sounds like he's talking about any kind of washing your hands, but certainly netilat yadayim, we do this. We wash the right hand first. Kishu sach, when you put oil on your hands, that's why it sounds like he might just be talking about general washing your hands and not netilat yadayim. Kishu sach shel yamin, v'achar kach shel small. Okay, you should do yamin first and then small when you're anointing your hands with oil. Here's a new thing. When you anoint your body, you should put on your head first, because your head is the rosh, the kol evarim, right? That's where the blood goes to give orders to everything in your body. So it all goes by what's important. Again, this goes very well with the Meiri, who basically says that there's reason to always keep in mind what's important, what your priorities are. Your right is your priority. That's God. It's right. Therefore, in mundane things, it's very important to keep these things in mind, to just remind you always of what you're looking for. Okay. The lo b'tefillin. Okay, now we're going to move on, even though we mentioned tefillin. It's funny, there was a reference to tefillin, even though it wasn't really connected to tefillin, but in the Mishnah, it talks about tefillin. Okay, the Mishnah said, we're back to what you can't go out with on Shabbat, and it says you can't walk out with tefillin. Now, there's two approaches about tefillin when it comes to Shabbat. Some people say Shabbat is not Zman tefillin, and you're not supposed to wear tefillin on Shabbat. And some people say Shabbat is Zman tefillin. So the question is our Mishnah, according to the one who says Shabbat is not time for tefillin, which would be kind of the obvious, and that's why you can't go out wearing tefillin, because you're not supposed to wear tefillin on Shabbat, or is it according to the other approach? And we're going to actually have two different versions of what Rav Safra said. The first one's going to relate to the words v'lo b'tefillin. You can't go out with tefillin. If you remember, the Mishnah said two things. It said you can't go out with these things, and if you do, you're not chayav chatat, meaning it's only asur d'Rabbanan. So the second version is going to focus on the part that says it's only asur from the rabbis, not by Torah law. And the first version is going to focus on you can't go out with tefillin. So Amar Rav Safra, lo tema, and I charted this out on the sheet if it helps you. Lo tema liba demand amar Shabbat lav zman tefillin. You don't even need to say this. If you say Shabbat is not zman tefillin, then of course you can't go out with tefillin on Shabbat. That's obvious. The Mishnah is not telling you that. Ella, what's the Mishnah telling you? Afilu lamanda amar Shabbat zman tefillin. Even if you say that Shabbat is a time for tefillin, lo yetze dilma atila tuye bereshut harabim. You still can't go out with tefillin in public. You can wear them in your house, but you can't go out in public. Why? Because, okay, you might take them off. Now, why would you take them off? So two reasons. One, you might actually really take them off because you need to go to the bathroom. We learned all that in brachot. So you have to take your tefillin off before you go to the bathroom. Although there's a big debate whether you actually have to take off tefillin shel yad or not. And therefore, people say, well, if it's only tefillin shel yad, then you don't need to take it off, and then maybe this wouldn't be an issue. The Tosfot and the Rashba say the issue is we're worried the strap might fall off, and then you'll pick up the strap because straps also have a level of kedusha to them. You won't want to leave them on the ground. You'll pick them up, and then you might carry them. So there's possibilities about what exactly we're worried you're going to carry. Okay, so they're saying even if Shabbat is on tefillin, you still can't go out with them. That's the first version of Rav Safra. Some people learn it on the second part. But it's only asur mid'Rabbanan. It's only forbidden by the rabbis. Comes Rav Safra and he says the reverse of the last version. Rav Safra lo tema liba demand amar Shabbat zman tefillin. You don't even need to say it. If you say Shabbat is not if you say Shabbat is man tefillin, then you don't need to say this, that you're not chayav chatat, because of course you're not chayav chatat. It's only d'Rabbanan. Maybe it'll fall off and you'll come to carry it. Ela afilu lamanda amar lav zman tefillin. But even if you say it's not a time for tefillin, eino chayav chatat, my time derech malbush aviv. Even if you say that Shabbat, you're not supposed to wear tefillin on Shabbat, still, you're not forbidden me to oraita if you go out with them. It's only from the rabbis. Why? Because tefillin is considered part of your clothing. Since people would wear it all day long, even on a day you're not supposed to wear it, still it would be viewed as clothing, meaning you wouldn't be forbidden me to oraita. However, the rabbi said, since Shabbat is not a time for tefillin, you shouldn't wear it. Okay, so again, it's only d'Rabbanan. So there's an emphasis on, is the Mishnah, this what basically comes down to, is the Mishnah focusing on talking according to the one who says Shabbat is man tefillin, or is it talking according to the one who says Shabbat lav man tefillin? Now, either which way, the halacha is the same in both. It's just the question of which one's more obvious and which one would need to be specifically stated. Now we're going to get to kameot, okay, amulets, which is a very interesting topic in terms of, it's hard for us to understand because we don't generally, most people nowadays don't wear these amulets. Certainly if they do, they don't believe in their power to cure the way they used to believe in, although I shouldn't say not. Maybe there are some people who really do. But the way it worked, it seems, was that there were people who specialized in writing amulets. There were two different kinds of amulets we're going to see. Ones that are made of spices or, you know, some sort of herbs, and which was basically a bag with herbs in them, or ones that were actually written, and they were written by these experts. Either which way, I think it was done by experts who would either put together the spice concoction, or they would write, and in it where we'll see were names of God and parts of psukim and things like that, verses in the Torah, and they were known to cure people. Okay, now some, obviously, like anything, you go to someone to write these things, some people know what they're doing and some people don't know what they're doing, again, depending on how you believe in these amulets. Is it about the person, right? We talked about this a few days ago about, is it, and this is what Shir and Chamutal dealt with in theirs, is it about the person believing that this is going to work? And that's why we saw amulets for animals. All right, you can't go out with them because the animal doesn't believe, he doesn't have the psychological, right? It's all about the psychological power of the person who's wearing it. This sugya would really seem to imply that it doesn't really so much have to do with psychology. It's a matter of, was this proven to work or not? So, okay, let's start with that. Below b'kamiyah bizman she'eno min hamumche. So you can't go out with an amulet if it's not from an expert. Amar Papa. Now, we're going to talk about two different types of experts. Expert means it was proven to work 3 times. What was proven to work 3 times? The person, the writer of the amulet, wrote 3 different amulets, and we're going to have a lot of math and permutations and combinations. He wrote an amulet, 3 different amulets, and they worked for 3 different people, or we'll see how many different people. Or is it that the amulet was proven to have worked okay, now it's a little tricky because generally you would use 1 amulet for 1 person, but the amulet was proven to work, let's say 3 times. So now they're going to say, okay, Amar Papa. So about 10 lines from the bottom. Lo tema adimumcha gabra umumcha kamiya. You don't need both that the person was proven to be a good writer and the amulet was proven. Ela kevan demumcha gabra afagav de lo mumcha kamiya. You could have someone who wrote 3 different amulets, even if that amulet wasn't proven to work 3 times. But if he wrote 3 different amulets that work, that would be sufficient. Daikanami, dekatani, you can infer this from the wording of the Mishnah. Pay close attention to the words. Below b'kamiyah bizman she'eno min hamumche. Min hamumche sounds like from the expert. Below katani bizman she'eno mumche. It doesn't say when the kamiyah wasn't proven. It said when it's not from a mumche. Sounds like the focus is on the person. Shma mina. Tanu Rabbanan. Now we're going to have a braita about kameh. Ezeu kameh mumche. And the first line is going to be the important one because as soon as we finish the braita, we're going to bring a contradiction. So remember this first line. I'll repeat it when we get to the end in case you forget. Ezu kameh mumche kol sheripa v'shina v'shilesh. A kameh mumche is one that worked 3 times. Echad kameh shel ktav ve'echad kameh shel ikarim. These are the 2 different types, written or spices. Echad cholesh sheyesh bo sakana ve'echad cholesh she'ein bo sakana. You can walk out with it even if you're not a life-threatening situation. Lo shenichpeh ela shelo yichapeh. Not only if you've already gotten sick and you want to get better, but even as preventative measures. Okay, you're healthy, but you're nervous about something right nowadays. You're worried about getting corona. This maybe would be useful nowadays to walk around. If we all had amulets that would protect us from getting corona from the next person, that'd be great. V'kosher u'matir afilu b'reshut harabim. You can tie it and untie it even in public. Why? Because we're not worried here's the interesting part. Because you think the kamea is working and you believe in it, you're certainly not going to take it off. You're going to make sure it stays on you at all times. So if you need to retie it, we're not worried that you're going to, if you untie it, that you're going to actually end up carrying it. So, but you can't tie it onto a necklace or a bracelet or onto a ring. Okay, now what's the reason for that? You can't go out in public like that. What are we worried about marita ayin? Because people will see it and they'll think, Rashi says, it doesn't look like you're using it for refuah. It looks like you're using it as a bracelet. If you tie something on the edge of your bracelet, it looks like it's just a bracelet. And I was thinking about people who wear chamsas as a necklace, right? Nobody really thinks that people who are wearing chamsas are using it as a real amulet to really protect them. Although maybe they do. Again, I don't know. I wasn't brought up in that way. I know people are, view these things differently. Anyway, so basically he says, because of Marit Ayin, you can't walk around with it on your jewelry, but you can walk around with it. Let's say it's just around your neck. V'hatanya. Okay, so remember I told you the beginning of the Braita was important. Kol sheripav shana v'shilesh. Okay, it worked 3 times. That's a command mumche. But now it says, V'hatanya, it says in the Braita, we're now on the second line of Amud Bet, Ezu command mumche, kol sheripesh shlosha b'nei adam ke'echad. It says command mumche is it treated 3 people like one, okay? The first Braita sounded like it could even just, sounds like even the same person. Okay, here it says 3 different people. So, lo kashya, halim chuye gavra, halim chuye kamea. Okay, so now they say, if you want, it's the difference between these 2 Braitot is the kamea what's mumche, or is the person mumche? So if you want to say the person's mumche, it has to be, right, that he healed 3 different people. That makes him a mumche. But to say the kameh is mumche, the kameh could have worked on the same person 3 times. Amar Papa. So now our Papa asks a question about this. He says, Pshitali. Now he's going to say 3 things are obvious to me, but the 4th I'm going to have a question about, and it's actually going to end in a teiku. He's going to give all these different permutations. Tzlat kameh litzlat gavre. You have 3 different kameot for 3 different people. The Braita before it didn't really go into details. How many kameot are we talking about for these people, etc. So if you have 3 different kameot that worked for 3 different people. So let's say I write kameot and I wrote 3 kameot. They each one worked for a different person. Tzlata zimne 3 times. So I cured you with 1 kameot 3 times. I cured someone else with a different kameot. It worked for you 3 times. And a 3rd person 3 times it worked. Obviously, it's mache gavra, vit mache kamea. In this case, both the kameot work 3 times, each on the same person. So each kamea is proven to work. And I'm proven that I can write kameo because I wrote 3 that worked. Chad kamea litzlata gavre, but if I wrote 1 kamea, right, I didn't skip, did I? Yeah. Chad kamea litzlata gavre, I wrote 1 kamea for 3 people. Kamea itmache gavre lo itmache. I only wrote 1 kamea. My kamea worked, but I'm not proven as a person who could write kameo, but the kamea is proven to work because it worked for 3 different people. By Rav Papa, tlata kamei lecha gavra mai. But what about, I think I skipped a case, didn't I? Let me look again. Sorry, I think I skipped something. So tlat kamei le tlat gavre tlat zimne. That works. Mache kamea. Tlata gavre. So it's mache. Oh, I skipped one. Tlata kamea le tlata gavre. 3 kameot. If I wrote 3 kameot for 3 different people, chad zimne. Each one worked 1 time. Then gavre itmache, then I'm good. Kamea lo itmache, but not the kamea. And chad kamea litzlata gavre, but if I wrote 1 kamea for 3 people, kamea itmache, gavre lo itmache. So then the kamea is good, but not me. But here comes Rav Papa's question. By Rav Papa, tlata kamea lecha gavre mai. If I wrote 3 kameot for 1 person, mai. Here comes his interesting question. Kamea vadai lo itmache. Okay, it was only 1. It was 3 kameot. Each worked for 1 person. So now each kamea only worked once. So the kamea is clearly not. But do we say gavre itmache olo? Now why would we say I wrote 3 kameot and they all worked for 1 person? So what's the problem? Do we say itmache olo itmache? Right? Does it work or not? Do we say I'm a mumche? Mi amrinan ha'asele. Do we say, look, I healed you 3 times with 3 different kameot. That should work. Oh, Dilman, here's the interesting line about kameot. and how they work, because clearly they don't really know how they work. Mazala dahai gavrahu dekamekabel katva. Could you say that since I wrote all these 3 kameot for one person, maybe that person has a special mazal? Remember we said mazal is sometimes an advocate in Shemayim, or maybe you could say some other way that somehow, and again, if you say it's all psychological, maybe that person really believes in kameot in a major, but maybe someone else, it wouldn't work for them. So maybe I'm not proven, because all my proof, this is a good, when you talk about experiments and are they proven, you have to try it on all different people. You have to have a controlled experiment. This isn't exactly a controlled experiment because it's all on one person. So the Gemara ends with teku. We don't really have an answer. Okay. Next question about kameah. Ibayalu. Kameim yesh behem mishum kedusha, o dilma ein behem mishum kedusha. Do they have sanctity or not? Now, what's the relevance? And you might say, what does this have to do with anything? Well, maybe just because we're on the topic of kameah, but soon they're going to try to prove it from our Mishnah. So first they say, Lamai hilchata. What's your question? Do they have sanctity or not? For what relevance? Ilema, they're going to reject the first 2 and try to deal with the third possibility. There's a fire you're allowed to save. We're going to get to this in Perek called Kitvei Kodesh. That you're allowed to save Kitvei Kodesh, sacred documents, from a fire. So maybe that's the question. Can you save them from a fire? Well, Tashma, we already have a source that says, Habrachot v'kamein af al pi sheyesh ben otiyot u'ma'anyenot harbe shebatorah ein metzilinot hamipnei adleika v'nisrafim b'mkoman. Doesn't work. You can't save these items from a fire. Okay, if you have a bracha written down or you have a kameah, these things, even though they might have God's name in them or references to God or letters, and they might have things from the Torah, you don't save. Let's say I have an amulet that I don't plan to use anymore. So what do I do with it? Can I just throw it in the garbage, or do I have to put it in a special geniza? Tashma haya katuv al yadot hakelim v'al karei hamita. If you have God's name written on a handle of a kli, which is not a very significant thing, or on the thing that the poles that hold up the bed, supports for the bed, yagod v'yignizenu. You have to cut it off and put it in the geniza. So obviously a kameah, you would clearly have to. So therefore, when it comes to fire, no. When it comes to geniza, yes. Those obviously aren't the question. But what about going into the bathroom? Okay, especially you're wearing an amulet, you want to go into the bathroom with them. Remember what we said about tefillin before. You couldn't wear the tefillin in Rishut Rabim because you might take it off when you go into the bathroom. So comes the Gemara and says, right? So here's the question. This must be the question. Can you go into the bathroom? Yesh ben kedusha v'asil, o dilma ein ben kedusha v'sharei. Do they have sanctity and you can't go into the bathroom? Or maybe you can. So Tashma, let's learn it from our Mishnah. The Mishnah says, v'lo b'kameah b'zman she'eno min ha'mumche. You can't go out with a kameah unless it's proven, which means ha min ha'mumche. If it's from a proven mumche, nafik, you can go out on Shabbat with it. Now, I amarit kamein yesh ben mishum kedusha, zilman demitzrich lebeit hakisei va'atulai turniyu arba mobur shid arbim, like we said with tefillin. If you have to take it off before you go to the bathroom, you'll take it off. What will happen? You walk out of the bathroom, you'll see your kameah, you might pick it up, take your amulet, and end up walking to Rishut Rabim. You might forget that it's Shabbat. So they say, and therefore it must be you can go into the bathroom if we're not worried about that. So now what did they answer? No, you could say the Mishnah, when it allowed you to do that, it meant only the spice one, which doesn't have God's name written in it or any psukim or anything else. And then it doesn't teach us anything about the sanctity of a kameah where it has God's name or some other reference. But then they say, how could you say it's only talking about kameah sheli karim? We quoted that Braita before, and what did it say? Echad kameah shaltav, echad kameah sheli karim. Any kind of amulet, right? Whether it's written or whether, right, you can still go out with it on Shabbat. So, elahacha b'ma'askina, now they're going to give a different possibility to reject, right? To basically say, our Mishnah proves that you can't. It's hacha b'ma'askina b'cholesh sheyesh bo sakana. Maybe the kameah shel ktav, you can walk out with it in Rishut Rabim. If it's dangerous, you might die. So maybe because of that. So then they say, v'hatanya, but it says in the Braita, echad cholesh sheyesh bo sakana, echad cholesh she'en bo sakana. You can't say this is only talking about dangerous people who might die and therefore taking the amulet. No, it said in the Braita explicitly, any kind of chole. So what do they answer? Ela kevan demase af agav denakat lebiyade nami shaper dami. Maybe you can say, we're not really worried that he might come to carry it, because even if he carries it, carrying it in of itself is like jewelry, okay? Because people would carry amulets sometimes, right? Sometimes they hang them around their necks or attach them to their clothes, or theoretically they might even carry it in their hand as a good luck sign. So maybe you would say we don't care if you take it off when you go to the bathroom, because when you get out of the bathroom, if you carry it, maybe that's not carrying. Maybe that's allowed. Okay, we're still kind of in the middle of a question. We're going to reject this tomorrow. We'll get to it. And then we'll try to eventually come up with, can we learn it from here or not? So anyway, we're left with our question of, can you go into a bathroom with a kameh or not? And is it possible to learn from our Mishnah the answer to that question, leaving you suspended?